Hey, welcome back. It's Memorial Day. Yeah, it's still actually, it's about going on 6. I went in for the 3:50 show. The movie's not that long. It's only about an hour and a half, give or take. And I'm just going to adjust that a little bit. There we go. It's only about an hour and a half, a little above, I think, like an hour 37. But yeah, it's still very bright out. Quiet Place Part 2. I've been here, so it got the number 1 spot this weekend. Doing great financially right now. Critically, it's being acclaimed. Fan-wise, being acclaimed. What do I think about this movie? Now, to understand what I think, you have to also understand what I think about the original one. I think the original one is fantastic. It's there's something in. Okay, there it is. I've been wondering what the hell that is. There's been something on the inside of my car for a while. That was like water, but turns out it was in here. Anyway, sap or something. I love the first one. The first one. It was a very unique film. It was extremely tense. The nail scene. Come on, I love a good creature feature, but I mean, the whole movie was the acting and the use of sound and the emotions, the way this family handled themselves. I'm like, it was just fantastic. It was just beautiful. It was one of my favorite films of that year. Quiet Place Part 2. So, what's the best way for me to put this? Now, it should really let you know, I actually like this movie a lot, but I'm trying to put my feelings into a coherent statement. It is a very good movie. But when I was watching it, I couldn't help but feel like choices that were being made story-wise were, I knew that they were ultimately going to have a payoff. But as I'm watching them, I'm like, why? That's why I'm in my head, I'm like, why? At one point I even took my glasses off. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell? Come on, folks. What the hell? Think. I tell you what's wrong with this movie. I would have to get into some spoilers. I'll do my best to refrain from anything too big. But anyway, it picks up. Well, actually, it doesn't pick up. The story where we're in the actual current timeline, it picks up immediately after the events of the first film. But we actually open up, and you see this in the trailer, so it's no big fun. We actually pick up on the day 1 of the event. So John Krasinski still shows up for a little bit, all that. And the little brother who was no longer with us in the first one got taken out, and actually seeing how this happened. We finally get a bit more context on what I need to pace myself here because I'm starting to jumble. We finally get more context on what the creatures actually are. It's actually, if you pay attention, especially to like the lore and really look into it, you know what the creatures are actually. But now we finally get a bit more context of what the creatures are, a bit more on how they behave. We get a big revelation about them that when they said it and I realized what was going on in the scene, I'm like, but wait, didn't the scene happen in the first one where that contradicts that? But I thought I was like, oh no, because the conditions were different in that scene. I'm not going to spoil what that is. Like, there is a big revelation about something about the creatures. Another actual inherent weakness about the creatures. And I'll leave it at that. But yeah, it's them obviously just trying to make their way, try to find one of the people who are still around. And we learn of a possible, safe place that may exist in the world through another character played by Cillian Murphy, who's really freaking good in the film. All the actors are doing phenomenal. Emily Blunt is still killing it. Cillian Murphy I think outshines Blunt a little bit, just because he's playing a person who has given up all hope, whereas they just found hope. So it's a great contrast, and seeing him slowly start to regain hope again, it's actually it's really cool to see. It's really nice to see. We also see a lot more people in this world, seeing how different people have survived in different ways in this world. Some good, some bad. And it's basically kind of a different version of The Walking Dead, where you see how people have survived in the zombie apocalypse. Now you're seeing how they're surviving in the, they call them Angels of Death in this one, in the lore, Angels of Death universe. So it's a very it's an interesting contrast. I'll say this too, the creature effects are, I mean, they're at minimum on par with what they were in the original. Would I say we actually see more of the creatures in this one than we do in the original? That's actually a good question. Because for a while, you barely see you see glimpses of them, you see passing, moments of the creatures, but you don't see them in their entirety until a little later in the film. I'll say, yeah, you do see more of the creatures in this, but the CGI is still really good, and the story isn't about the creatures. The creatures just happen to be a bit more prevalent in the movie. And there's some great scenes involving them, people using sound. There's a scene involving a sprinkler system and Emily Blunt. That's really fantastic. That's great. Absolutely. But where I will actually get into a complaint where I've heard, because one of the people I like to watch says they improved on some of the stuff that didn't work as well in the first one. I'm like, I'm gonna tentatively kind of disagree a little bit about the stuff that didn't work, and there wasn't much that I felt didn't work in the first one. But it involves the daughter, the deaf daughter, the older daughter. Actually, there's only one daughter. I don't know if the baby's the daughter, but you know what I mean. It involves the daughter. And in the first one, I took issue with how the daughter was behaving. I understood why she was behaving and felt the way she did. She felt responsible for her brother's death, and she just felt that her dad hated her. And that wasn't the case. But I get it. Handicappable, not handicapped, all that. Her deafness is in fact actually a weapon, as we see them actually start to take these. They bring a speaker, hook it up with her hearing aid, and they basically just, bring it along for defense. Emily Blunt's got the shotgun and all that and blowing him away. Blowing a creature away or two. But you're deaf in a world where making a sound can kill you, and you don't have the safety of that sand trail anymore. Think! And okay, so the basic plot is she's found a possible safe place and she wants to go and try to find it. But she wants to basically do it on her own because she thinks, I can save everyone. I got this. I'm like, okay, look, I get it. You want to try to... She does something in this movie. And just by hearing what I'm saying she's been doing, you can kind of gather what it might be, but I'm not going to spoil it. She does something in this movie where right off the bat, I'm like, oh my God, I know you're right. That's the problem. We know as an audience member, she's almost certainly right about what she's talking about. But the problem is she's still an emotional, stupid, as smart as she is, stupid, and guilt-driven teenager. So she does something where I'm like, and she takes some things along to him. We're like, what the hell is wrong with you? I really want to say what it is, but I don't want to spoil what it is. Needless to say, she does something where she ends up hindering the other people. She ends up hindering her mom, her brother, who ends up getting injured early on in the movie. So he's at a disadvantage, and her little baby sibling. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. So I'm like, oh my fuck. And what's worse is she gets into a scenario, and you see a little bit of this in the trailer, where she's in an old train car, and one of the creatures is there, and she would have died if something hadn't happened. She would have died if something hadn't happened. And it goes to show, it's like, okay, so not only did you go out unprepared, deaf, and again, I don't mean to sound like I'm hard to say, you're deaf, so you're not capable of handling this world. But let's be honest, without other people around to help her, she's kind of not. I mean, she has a hearing aid, but we've established the hearing aid just kind of doesn't work very well. Except for weird intermittent points where she can kind of hear stuff for some reason. I think at one point. Like in the first movie. But like the hearing aid doesn't actually work. So it's it works for what it needs to do to kill the creatures, but it doesn't work to help her hear. So she is one of the most vulnerable people in this world, and she still has this idea that she can do it alone, and she can't. Like, she freaking can't. And if things hadn't happened that allowed her to survive, she would have been dead. And it all would have been because she felt that she felt that survivor's guilt on her because of her dad, and she wanted to try to, make it right. And the problem is, I can only be so mad at the character because this time around, I know she's right. Unlike in the first one where she's really just being an angsty teen in a place and time and world where when you're deaf and an angsty teen, going off on your own to, try to like vent is not smart, where it will get you killed possibly by a giant monster creature. But here it's like I can only be so mad because I know as an audience member, especially when we get later in the film, that she's right for what she's doing. So it's really conflicting. And at least in the original, I could understand why she was angry, but I could be justified in not liking her for her actions because it wasn't doing anything that helped out overall. They only discovered in the first one by a fluke incident that the things were weak to that frequency. Here, she's got more justification, which actually makes it more difficult for me to dislike her, or like her, but at the same time, easier all at once. It's really frustrating. But then that's not all. Other characters, like the brother makes a decision at one point, and I'm like, why are you doing this? There's no reason for you to be doing this. Like, none. And what he does ultimately brings a creature towards them. So I'm like, why are you doing this? Emily Blunt goes off at one point. Hers was justified, though. Her reason for going off at one point is justified. I don't blame her for that one. The other two, they're like, ugh! Honestly, and then the way the movie ends, obviously I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's basically just the version of the first ending. That I'm not gonna say exactly how, but it's just a different, altered version of the first ending of the original. So extrapolate. If you think that's a spoiler, sorry if you think that's a spoiler. I'm not saying it's the exact same thing. Well, no, it's not the exact same thing, but it's a different version. It's an alteration to that. And I don't know. For me, I'm like, that ending. I'm like, it was a good ending. I'm like, and I get the symbolism behind it, but I could have done with something a little bit more finite. I don't know. They're talking about a third one, which would show the origins of what happened, but we kind of already got that in this. Like, we saw the briefest of origins of what happened here. So, I don't know. I mean, was it still a great film? Was it still tense? Was it still scary? A good jump scare there? Was there some decent action? Was it, the whole, how are we going to get out of it? Yeah, it was still really good. But I'll say this. I think I prefer the first one. And Cillian Murphy's fantastic in this. I like John Krasinski a little better, but this just John Krasinski's got a nice warmth to him. He's John Krasinski. He also introduced the film, like one of those "thank you for coming" and all that things before the film. But yeah, ultimately though, I still really recommend the movie. If you like the first one, you'll still like this one. Absolutely, I still very much like this film. Is it my favorite film of the year? Favorite? Okay, wait. Do I think it's the best film of the year that I've seen? Maybe. Nobody might be a close second. But in terms of, is it my favorite film of the year? No, I'd say Godzilla vs. Kong is my favorite film of the year, just for the sheer fun of it, in terms of like joy of going to the movies. But, sun. Okay, no, we're good. I guess the sun's trying to shine out from the clouds. But no, I'd say this is probably the best made movie. Like, overall, this is probably the best movie of the year, quality-wise. In terms of, like, just overall enjoyment, though, I'd say I'd like maybe something like Kong versus Godzilla a little bit better. But that's different. When I do my top 10, I'll figure this will probably right now be in the top 10. I haven't seen enough movies. Actually, have I seen enough movies yet this year to make a top 10? Godzilla vs. Kong, Tom and Jerry. Think. Nobody. Mortal Kombat. This. Think was Cruella. And I know I've seen like one or two other films this year. I'm blanking on them, quite frankly. But I know I've seen a few other ones. Wrath of Man. I think I might have seen 10, so if I had to make a top 10 right now, I could, but anyway, I digress. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of the movie if you've seen it already. Put in the comments below. Let me know. Put in comments. Let me know if you have a review or something. Let me know about that too. Hit that bell if you want to be notified. This week, I've already done my videos for today. I just got to upload them. I got to pre-record my Atlantic Core video for tomorrow. I think I'm having a brain fart. This week is Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It, which we had a trailer for, and Spirit Untamed, which I'm gonna be honest, I'm doing because you requested it, man. I'm not looking forward to that. I can already tell you that one's gonna be one I'm probably gonna have to struggle to get through. Just be like, ugh. Anyway, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll be the best movie ever. I highly doubt it. That's because old Jack Sparrow there's like, perhaps it'll be the best movie ever. I rather doubt it. Anyway, I digress. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you folks later. And happy Memorial Day.